Again, thanks for joining everybody. Today we're going to talk through the product module and inventory sync capabilities in Webgility Desktop. It is one of the more, we'll say, complicated, I guess, features that Webgility has in that it controls a lot of things and it affects things across your channels and inside of QuickBooks. So it's really important to understand what's happening behind the scenes, how to set it up properly, and some best practices. So just to get some introductions out of the way, my name is John May. I am the engagement manager here for Webgility. If you've been to any of the webinars, seen any of our YouTube videos, called into our online phone system, you've heard my voice or seen my face at some point. I'm joined today by Manish. If you want to introduce yourself, Manish.
Hi everyone, this is Manish. I'm the onboarding specialist, implementation manager from the onboarding team. I've been assisting clients for the last 5.5 years on their workflow setup, configuration in Webgility, and also working as a consultant, understanding your problem for e-commerce from the e-commerce industry, sales channels, and giving you a solution, the best practices and best ways how you can manage those records into QuickBooks through Webgility.
Awesome. And I always like to say this, but it's great to have the implementation team on these sessions. I can sort of, talk my way through WebGility a lot because I started implementation myself. I know a lot about the product. I use it constantly. But having the implementation team who works day in and day out with customers, sees the problems that you guys run into on a day-to-day basis, is super important because they can give context that I
Yeah.
would not be able to give. So just to talk through the agenda, we're going to go through how WebGility handles products. So how WebGility looks at your products on both, the QuickBooks side and the sales channel side. The difference between product matching and mapping and how that works. Inventory, price, and cost syncing, and then some advanced rules and best practices. Some quick housekeeping stuff, just because I didn't mention it yet, but these webinars are recorded. So you'll get a link to the recording in an email after the session's done. I always say it takes me about a day to get everything processed, but lately I have been swamped, so it is not going out as soon as I'd like. I am going to try to get it out today, though, just so that you guys can get a quick turnaround on that. We also, if you have any questions, this is sort of I like to call it a working hours session. So feel free to ask any questions that you have about WebGility, how it works, any settings. If it doesn't pertain directly to what we're talking about in that moment, we might save it for the end for the dedicated Q&A session. But feel free to ask. Feel free to ask anything. We're more than happy to dive in. If it is something that isn't really related to like WebGility in general and more is specific to your subscription, it might be something we have to follow up after the call with, just because it can be hard to sort of suss out problems on a live session like this. So let's go ahead and dive in. We'll start with the product module and again what WebGility does with products and how we look at them. And then Manish and I are just going to take turns going back and forth on these slides just to keep it interesting, keep it fresh. And then at the very end, we'll do sort of a more live contextualized demo. We'll share some screenshots and the settings behind the scenes, so that you can have a bit of a better context for what's going on. But the product module and what it does. So WebGility connects, obviously, just to start from the basics, connects your sales channels and their products to QuickBooks items, either manually or automatically. And we'll explain what that means momentarily. But WebGility controls the inventory, price, and cost sync across any of your connected channels. And it'll do so depending on how you have those settings set up and the preferences that you have for your workflow. So there are some, I like to call them levers and knobs that you can, turn and pull to kind of make the output of the data look a little differently or sync differently. What this does is it prevents duplicate or rejected orders from being downloaded or posted into your system of record. Obviously, WebGility prides ourselves on giving you accurate, consistent data. So if it duplicated orders or rejected orders or pulled in rejected orders, that's no good for anybody. We cut that out. And obviously, this helps it stay or maintain that clean, accurate environment that you're looking for. All right, Manish, if you want to take the matching.
Yeah, the most important one in the industry, without matching, nothing works. Nothing can sync properly. Your orders cannot sync, your product cost, price. quality, nothing works. So in the e-commerce industry, when you list your products on your sales channels or when you manage it in your QuickBook, especially on e-commerce channels, SKU is a unique identifier for your products. So you always want to make sure your SKU is unique for each of your products, and that unique identifier should be matching with some data in QuickBook for that specific product. So in QuickBook, mostly you want to keep that same SKU as the item name in QuickBook. That's the best way to match your product SKU from chain channel with the item name in QuickBook. And if that's not how it works, if that's not how you want to keep it, you have some other mapping options as well that we'll talk about. But yeah, matching is the most important one. So once your items are matching from sales channels to QuickBook using SKU or name in QuickBook, your quality can be easily synced through any software, not just Webgility. Any software you use in this industry, those softwares will be using this identifier to match to sync your quantity, price, or cost, or sales as well. Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah, and I'll add a little bit more context here as well, just because it's something that I always sort of harp on is that one, if you don't know, I'm assuming most of you know what SKU stands for. It's stock keeping unit. It's the standard unique identifier for products that you have in your catalog, right? So the reason that's so important is that if you think of it like if you know anything about like data integrity or data analysis, to be able to track items across systems, you need to know which item you're looking at in each system, and they need to have something that matches across systems, right? So in this case, SKU is the most common way to do that because SKUs are generally unique identifiers that you can, copy and paste between your systems. And that's what allows Webgility to say, hey, that pair of shoes that you have listed in your Shopify is the exact same pair of shoes that you have in your QuickBooks company file, right? So that's why it's so important. But let's move on to product
Yeah,
mapping.
just one more
Yeah.
point about matching SKU here, which is important. SKU is what shows up in your sales as well on your store, not your barcode, not UPC, not any vendor code. When you have a sale on sale channels, SKU is what shows up in your sale. So when your bookkeeper or accountant look at your sale, or even Webgility software look at your sale on store, SKU is what you find, and we're gonna pick that SKU to find a match in accounting system to be able to add that sale record.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's a really good distinction because people do use barcodes, obviously, because every
yeah.
item that you generally get from a supplier, at the very least, has a barcode on it, and that doesn't mean that you can't use barcodes as identifiers on either side. It's just generally a lot easier to use the SKU on both sides because it is so universal. You can, as an example, like in your Shopify, you can set up the barcode and you can have it correspond to the barcode inside of QuickBooks. But that automatic matching, because of the way the barcodes work, isn't ideal and does not work with Webgility in that way. So, um,
Yeah.
moving on to product mapping. If for some reason you are unable to get matching SKUs, or let's just say you're new to Webgility and you have, a catalog of 10,000 products, and you don't have SKUs on them inside of, say, your Shopify, but you do have SKUs on them inside of QuickBooks. Um, there is an option for you to sort of manually create a connection inside of Webgility to tell us that they're the same item, right? So that same pair of shoes that we talked about from your Shopify and your QuickBooks, you can go into Webgility and go under the manual mapping or matching section and say, hey, this pair of shoes in my Shopify is this same pair of shoes in my QuickBooks. And we'll make that connection and it'll stay linked unless you tell us otherwise. So that anytime an order comes through, we'll see that we made that connection, that bridge, and it'll work just as if you had the matching SKUs that we talked about. Super not advisable if you have a large catalog, like I mentioned, 10,000 products. It would be a nightmare to say the least to go and do that matching manually across all 10,000 products. Unless you want to pay, somebody on your team to go do that for 2 weeks straight, it's probably not the best option for you. So the secondary option here that generally we recommend in this case, if you need to do these updates en masse, is to do a bulk export of all of your products in QuickBooks with that SKU, and then import the SKUs into something like Shopify, so that you do have those matching SKUs and they can automatically be connected through Webgility. That's the easiest way to do it if you're needing to update things in mass. There are some other I guess, fringe cases where you're, let's say, again, using a Shopify and you want to transfer your products from QuickBooks into Shopify. This would only work if you either one wanted to delete all of your products in Shopify and then transfer them from QuickBooks so that it has that information, or you're starting from a fresh Shopify and want to create those products directly in Shopify. That's sort of an edge case, not something that we
Yeah.
see or recommend a whole lot, but it is an option. And then finally, I guess the last option that we'll sort of talk about is the option to ignore. So if you have products that don't require inventory or have no need for inventory sync, that's generally where we recommend just ignoring them. But if there's you're experiencing a headache because some of your products are missing when you're trying to pull in orders, you can ignore them, and then you'll just have to go and track that inventory manually through QuickBooks and update it manually. So it is an option. Again, not optimal, not something that we recommend, but it is something that's there for you.
Yeah. Just one point, I mean, on the previous slide.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, yeah. No, you're
Uh,
good.
yeah, and this happened like maybe you have your business in place for last 10 years or so, and you already have your products in QuickBooks and you have your website already. You got thousands of products, but they have different SKUs, different names in QuickBooks. So this is when you can use this kind of option, map alternate ways to just connect your store product with QuickBooks. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
All right.
Perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, now comes inventory sync. This is what quantity, price, or costing. So yeah, once you have your products matching or mapping, only then it's possible to sync your quantity or price. So we got multiple options in Webgility, like keeping considering QuickBook as a master catalog and sync your QuickBook quantity to your sale channel or sale channels. But if you're selling your products from QuickBooks to multiple sale channels or marketplaces, then this option is available to keep your inventory count up to date on your store from QuickBooks. It could be done vice versa as well. Like for example, if Shopify is where you have your products catalog up to date from the warehouse and you want to keep QuickBooks up to date, so that's also possible. You can switch or change the master catalog in the ability settings. However, it's recommended that you have QuickBook as a centralized database source of truth for your quantities, and that can be synced to your store through Webgility. And then whenever you have sales coming in from your sales channel, we add a sale to QuickBook, and that's when your QuickBook inventory gets reduced. So this is how it works: two-way process, quantity update to your catalog to catalog sync from QuickBook to stores, sales channels, and then auto sync to QuickBook. That will reduce count. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, well said. And one thing I'd like to add just on the basis of like, when we're talking about the source of truth and why we recommend QuickBooks as being the source of truth, for some it might be obvious, but when it comes to, having a centralized source that you can rely on for your data, it makes sense that QuickBooks is the recommended option there. But to go further than
Yeah.
that, if you think about it from the perspective of having multiple stores or multiple channels, having one of your sales channels be the master inventory or the master catalog becomes a lot more suboptimal, right? Because then you're not treating QuickBooks like the source of truth. You're treating one of your stores, but the other ones follow suit off of your QuickBooks. So it sort of makes a weird triangle situation where
Yeah.
in a perfect world, you would look at QuickBooks as, your financial you know, solid as a rock source of data, right? You do all of your reporting, you do all of your, inventory cataloging, costs, and calculations directly through QuickBooks because all of your sales channels feed their order data directly into it. So, just to sort of explain why we look at it that way and why we recommend it. Again, it is not the end all be all rule. Maybe you are starting a new company file and you need to use your Shopify as a source of truth for some time, or you have, a store that you've used for so long that the data is all there and not in your QuickBooks. There are some edge cases, like I said, that kind of constitute using your store as your master catalog, but just wanted to explain why we look at QuickBooks as the better source of truth.
Yep. All right. So yeah, the way we can sync quantity from QuickBooks to your sales channel, your price and cost can also be synced. Uh, but it depends, like whether you want to keep the pricing same on the sales channel or you want to keep the pricing different. So it's an optional setting in Webgility. However, if you really want to keep your sales channel pricing same as what you have in QuickBooks. So you can consider QuickBooks as a master catalog, update the pricing in QuickBooks, and that will be up to date on your sales channel through Webgility. Uh, but yeah, this is really price is really kind of it depends. Like you have a product for $10 in QuickBook and you want to sell it on $12 on quick sales channels and keep it different. Then yeah, it's a choice. You may want to choose to sync or avoid it. But that's available. And cost is again very important. You always have to make sure that the QuickBook has a correct cost for the item, because based on that cost, QuickBook can then prepare all the different cost of goods sold report or profit margin report. If that data is not in place already, then doesn't matter even if you add a sale to QuickBook. QuickBook will generate only the sales or income report, but not your cost of goods sold report. So the common scenario that I usually come across is most of the clients have their cost on their sales channels, but not in QuickBooks. So in that situation, we can sync the cost from store or sales channels to QuickBooks so that QuickBooks has the right cost. And then whenever you add a sale, QuickBooks can then prepare further reports.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, to I guess reiterate, it's same thing that we talked about with like having QuickBooks as the master catalog. It's
Yeah.
if you're trying to be holistic about your data and understand everything that's happening in your business, you probably want to have everything inside of QuickBooks that you can, right? So, um, making sure that your cost of goods sold data is inside of QuickBooks is super important. However, we can pull it from Shopify if you have it in Shopify, but not QuickBooks for whatever reason. But I've been on sort of a crusade lately to, sort of educate people on being holistic about their data and understanding that having as much data as possible isn't good if you're not using it. So I like to kind of drive home the fact that like make sure your cost of goods sold data, your cost data is inside of QuickBooks at the very least, because it'll give you that accurate information that you need to be able to say, hey, my margins are too low on this product. I need to scale back, or maybe there's an unexpected product that you're selling that the margins are okay for you. You're profitable at the very least. Maybe it doesn't look that way because you're not selling a lot of volume. But having that cost of goods
Yeah.
sold to really drive down the profitability or see the profitability in your system is super important. I see a question from Leo. We used to have QuickBooks as our master, but when we had to convert to Shopify POS, we had to change because not all of our POS were in our e-commerce. That is one of those scenarios that I talked about. So yeah, when it comes to when you involve a point of sale system in the equation, it sort of makes things a little weird. Because point of sale in a lot of ways acts like its own sort of source of truth because you're getting all of your physical order data and everything in-house. And then you're having to then sync that out back to QuickBooks. And then you also have an e-commerce store. So it can get a little bit complicated in terms of like the routing. But yeah, that is one of those cases where it might be a better a better decision to use Shopify POS as the source of truth. I'm trying to sort of create this narrative that if you have a brick and mortar store, it should operate. I mean, there's obviously some differences, but from an order syncing perspective and a financial data perspective, you should treat it just like an e-commerce channel, right? At the end of the day, you want that data to be synced back to a master QuickBooks company file alongside your online store that will just be a separate channel inside Webgility. So if there's maybe another, we might be able to work out a way to go back to QuickBooks if you wanted to. It might be too much work at this point. If you're happy with how it's working in Shopify POS, that is totally fine. But I just figured I would kind of throw that out there as a scenario as well. But that's a good question, or I guess call out, not really a question, but it doesn't work well. That's what I thought. So yeah, if you want to get with our team at some point, or if you want, I can schedule a call. We could talk through the routing to get Shopify POS set up alongside Shopify, the e-commerce store, and then fed directly into QuickBooks and keep QuickBooks as the master. There might be some, I guess, like inventory routing that you need to do to make sure that like the bins are, kept segmented and that you're keeping inventory on hand for Shopify POS, but still pulling from inventory on your e-commerce store. All super possible. It just might require some routing and a conversation with our team to make sure it's like solid for your workflow. Sorry, long-winded, but I just want to make sure that you're feeling good to go. So, yeah, no problem. So we'll move on to advanced sync. So there are some advanced rules. If you have been using Webgility Desktop for any amount of time, you know that there is a lot going on behind the scenes. If you've sort of meandered into some of our menus at the very top in the toolbar, you'll see that there's a lot of different buttons that you can press and things that you can do to kind of make things work to your workflow. But some of the more, I guess, common ones that we see are syncing only selected products. So you can set it to sync only the products that you want it to sync, right? You can ignore everything else and then sync only the products that you feel are super necessary. So if there's stuff that again doesn't have an inventory to track, if you're selling digital goods or something that you always have in stock, you never run out of, you probably don't need to track the inventory for it, especially if the cost doesn't change. You don't need to track the cost or the price if it stays static for you. You can set minimum quantity values. This is a huge one. So if you, good example, to go back to Leo's comment about using Shopify POS, if you have a point of sale store or we'll say brick and mortar location and an online store, you want to make sure that you have the inventory listed correctly in your brick and mortar, obviously, because that's the physical. If somebody goes in, they want to be able to buy the thing. But you also don't want to, if you've sold out of that product or gotten low enough in of that product in your brick and mortar store, you don't want to oversell it on your online store. So you can set a minimum quantity value or a buffer. You don't. It doesn't necessarily even have to be a minimum. You can, set whatever number you want it to be, so that you don't stock out or that you give yourself a buffer if you have a limited quantity on hand in the brick and mortar, or maybe there's more in the warehouse that you can send out for your online store. Um, you can do the same for pricing as well, sort of tangentially. You can set price rules as well. So there's a lot of different flexibility that comes to setting those rules for each of your products or as a blanket across all of your products. You can again ignore the inventory for items that don't require syncing. That's really good for clutter. If you have a lot of products that don't require any syncing, that will keep the noise, I like to call it, down. Because especially if you have a huge catalog, it can get pretty out of hand pretty quickly if you're trying to manage things manually. And then honestly, like all these things boil down to tailoring Webgility to your workflow. We could talk all day about the background settings and like special niche use cases that we have and certain things that we built for certain customers that had like a really one-off scenario. And we still wouldn't be able to cover it all. So if you feel like there's room for your workflow to evolve or something that you maybe could be doing better in Webgility to make it easier for you, reach out to our team. That's what our onboarding and support teams are here for. If you need a refresher session to go through all of those advanced settings or what Webgility can do in those special circumstances, we're happy to schedule that time and make sure that you feel comfortable using Webgility and that it works for you. Because ultimately, like especially for Webgility Desktop, we sort of pride ourselves on having the flexibility to meet any workflow. There are some times where we're maybe not the the perfect solution because of some crazy workflow that you have, but that's very few and far between. For the most part, we're able to adapt and make sure things work for you in a way that kind of suits your workflow. All right, Manisha, you want to handle common issues?
Uh, yeah, and about common issue. This is all depends on the product matching. I mean, when you start syncing your sales to accounting system, QuickBook won't accept your sales because if the items are not matching, and then any SKU you have in the sale not found in QuickBook, QuickBook doesn't know where to record those revenues in QuickBook side. So or maybe discount where it should go in QuickBook. So we have to make sure that the items are matching correctly or mapped correctly, and then that really reduces the number of errors you might come across while syncing your sales to QuickBook. And yeah, sometimes you may have duplicate items on your store, or maybe same SKU utilized on multiple products, maybe by mistake or intentionally sometimes. So that will really need to be looked into. Yeah, and those are mostly the reasons why you may come across those errors. So just make sure that you don't come across the errors or problems. Your items are matching and mapped correctly. Sometimes you may also have additional specific kind of items like group items or bundle items or assemblies. We might have a different webinar on that side. But yeah, that could be a situation like QuickBooks is not prepared for those groups, kits, or bundles in that situation. So we really need to make sure the catalog is updated correctly, matching properly to avoid those common errors.
Yeah, perfect. And some best practices to go over just to kind of some of this stuff is stuff that we've already talked about, but the sort of the bottom line is at the very basis, ensure that your SKUs match between your stores and QuickBooks. That's probably the biggest piece of advice that I have, especially for anybody that's new to WebGility. It makes your life so much easier. If you don't have that exact matching right away, it's okay. But I would take the time to go and do that bulk update and make sure that the SKUs do match because it is worth it. It makes your life a lot easier in the long run. Sometimes a little bit of homework is worth the payoff at the end, right? So, um, sort of along the same lines, though, make sure that you've gone through if you're still preparing to go live at Webgility, or if you've been live with Webgility for some time, but you're going through some issues and you want to sort of get it right on track. Go through your QuickBooks and your chart of accounts and all of the linked accounts and workflows that you have, and make sure that you're happy with how it looks and on the output, right? So make sure you're happy with the structure of your accounts. If you use clearing accounts or accounts like that, make sure that you're happy with how they're segmented, how they're divided up. And then from there, it's a lot easier to go into Webgility and do that mapping and say, okay, well, I want my expenses to go to this account. I want my any of my Shopify orders to go to my Shopify clearing account. So making sure that you have all that stuff set up beforehand is, I wouldn't say crucial, because it is always okay to go and set things up along the way. But if you have that stuff set up before you take it live with Webgility, before you start pulling in orders, it makes it a lot more simple to understand when things break, so that you can fix them a lot easier. Sometimes when we're, building things along the way and sort of putting band-aids over things that, could have been done initially, it makes things a lot more confusing, and that's frustrating for everybody. So just going through and making sure you're happy with your setup before start introducing unknown variables to it. It's always a good best practice. Um, Another best practice: test with a few of your orders first. So don't select a whole page of 100 orders and then just push them all into QuickBooks and then, call it good. You can do that, and if you were lucky or if you paid enough attention and have everything set up correctly, it might work perfectly. But it also might, not look exactly how you want it, and then you have to go and unsync 100 orders. Bonus points here if you do post a bunch of different types of orders. So if you wanted to create test orders in your Shopify, stuff that, represents different types or scenarios of orders where it's like returns, refunds, stuff that includes discounts, gift cards, non-inventory items, stuff like that, then you can see how it looks inside of QuickBooks and make sure that it's exactly how you want it to look. Because we, again, have all those levers and knobs. We can customize the information that gets pulled in on those different types of orders, so that it does look exactly how you want it. And then finally, and this is one that I always say, don't turn automation on until you're fully happy with how everything looks. Take that 100 order scenario where you're publishing 100 orders or posting 100 orders and multiply that by however many orders you have in your store at any given moment, right? So if you go and turn on automation, it's just going to pull everything in without asking you, right? It's going to pull in all of your orders. If you have it set to pull in your expenses and refunds, it's going to do all that too. And again, if you're not happy with how it looks, you're going to have to go and undo all that work, which it is undoable. It is fixable. It is just a lot more work. So don't turn automation on until after you've done the testing, till after you're happy with everything. I like to call that the final step at Webgility is turning on automation. I see Rick might already be gone, but Rick said I have to jump. Can I see this video later? If anybody else has that question, yes, absolutely. It'll be posted to our YouTube channel, and I will send out the link to that YouTube video, hopefully today. Timothy says we need the sales price field to update, but it'll only update regular price. There's even a checkbox in Mobility to update sales price, but no impact. Okay, so it sounds like there might be something behind the scenes that we need to figure out. I already reached out to our support team to get a call scheduled, so you should hear from them probably today, if not very, very soon. And then we can figure out what's going on there and make sure that it's fixed for you. Perfect. And now is the dedicated time for Q&A. I actually, before we do the Q&A, Manish, did you want to go through some of the live screens so that we can sort of
Uh,
demo?
Yes, it's important just to review
Yeah,
those setup
take it
in
easy.
Webgility. I'm sharing my screen now. Let me know if it's visible.
It's loading. There you go. Yep.
Okay, so in Webgility, when you log in, you want to go to top left corner, hit products, and then that's where you have catalog page available. On the left panel, you have two sections, Shopify and QuickBooks. So under Shopify, you want to review your all product list. You are really concerned about your online sales channel product because that's what you sell, that's what you have to sync to with QuickBooks. uh, if you try to compare with QuickBook all product, you might have a lot of other items in QuickBook that you don't sell on your store. So you always want to start from your Shopify all catalog list to make sure Shopify items are matching. So this is a list, like I have 1604 items on my best Shopify store. If I want to check how many items are matching with the default matching SKU with the item name in QuickBook, I can go to top right corner, hit match to product. So that's a default matching. Like 130 items are matching. They have exact same SKU and same name in QuickBook. So the syncing of sale gonna be very easy. If I want to sync quantity, price, cost as well, it can be easily synced with no trouble because software knows these items on store and in QuickBooks. So it can really connect, compare their data as well, and we can update the information easily. Now, if you talk about other items, like we only see 130 here so far. So there are a lot of items on my sales channel which are not matching with anything in QuickBooks. So they are here on WebGility's missing QuickBook list, top left corner under Shopify. Uh, yeah, 1,474 so far. So there could be so many scenarios why these are not matching. Maybe these items do not exist in QuickBook. That's one of the situation. Another situation is maybe they exist in QuickBook, but it's just that SKU is not matching with the correct product in QuickBooks. So we talked about mapping. So again, how do we solve this problem here for the missing QuickBook? You just want to go back to Shopify, go back to QuickBook, make sure the SKUs are correctly updated. Item name in QuickBook is exactly the same. Update those catalog on QuickBook and Shopify, and then simply refresh this page. If you want, you can also download this list and share with your concerned team who want to work on it. You can use this download at the bottom right corner. You have arrow pointing up to download this list, so you know you have the reference data available. What need to be corrected? Second situation, you do have these items in QuickBooks with the different names, but you do not want to change them. So what do we do now? Or maybe you have the SKU available in QuickBooks somewhere in a different field, not in the name field. So there are some alternate matching or mapping options we're going to talk about. Just for example, this is a one product from Shopify. This exists in QuickBook with a different name. So I can check the box, hit mapping at the bottom, map product. I can go to auto recommendation. This is where what John explained earlier. You can let software know that a product XYZ from a store is connected to ABC in QuickBook. So you can check this box. All QuickBook product shows up here, and you can connect it to the relevant product. Webgility will remember this mapping whenever there is a sale on Shopify on your sales channel. It will make sure that order gets recorded to the correct item in QuickBook. So this is the mapping option where we just connect ABC to XYZ and let software know, tell software which one it belongs to. Second option, maybe you have that SKU available in QuickBooks somewhere, not in the item name field, but maybe in the manufacturing part number field or barcode field. So in that situation, you again check the product here. I can maybe do this for all. For this, for example, is one-click mapping option. Uh, yeah, some clients have that. Like they would have SKUs updated in QuickBooks under the manufacturing part number field. So you go to map product at the bottom, select one-click mapping, click on manufacturing part number. So if any of my QuickBook item has exact same SKU, same code in manufacturing part number field as SKU from store, then it will have the mapping done. Let's check. Okay, we got two items mapped here. So yeah, these are two SKUs from store. Those SKUs available in manufacturing part number field, and you can see the name is different in QuickBooks. So this is another way to map those items. Again, alternate option, not the recommended one. Uh, if you look at another option, maybe I have those SKUs available under the barcode field in QuickBook. Then we can use this barcode mapping, and it will try to find a match. So we've got three different items mapped. SKU and barcode are the same, but name was different. So that was kind of SKU to barcode mapping option in Webgility. Now, third situation, you do have item name in QuickBook exactly the same the way you have SKU, but that item may be a sub item under another product. And because of that, QuickBook shows the name as like parent name, colon, sub item name. And because of that long name in QuickBook, the SKU from Shopify does not match. So in that situation, you can again use map option at the bottom, go to one click mapping, hit sub item mapping, continue. So it's going to find the SKU under the sub item in QuickBook and get the mapping done for you. So even if you have thousands of products, you can get back to this page and choose what is the best mapping option for you if the standard universal matching is not working for you. So yeah, there is one more way to get that done. Just for example, you have the catalog in QuickBook, you have the catalog on store, but there's no matching. Like you don't want to do the correction in QuickBook, you don't want to change the name, and SKU is not available in any of your QuickBook field, and you have to manually map everything. So manual mapping may be taking a long time, so you can get this mapping done through an Excel sheet as well. Like if I go back to all product on left side under Shopify, top right corner. Now I'm going to go to the mapping option, not for the matching, the mapping that we do manually in Webgility. We can export this list out. This is where all the items are going to show up, which we mapped through SKU, barcode, or SUBA, or maybe the manual mapping. And we can export this list out using arrow at the bottom right corner, add the data, and import it back here on this page. So when we export this out, this is how it's going to look like. I have this exported already. So column C is a store identifier, column D is a QuickBook identifier. You can update all the SKUs here, all the QuickBook name if it is different, and then feed this data back to Webgility as well. So this will be like if you really have different names, different SKUs, and you have to do one-to-one mapping, this will really gonna save you a lot of time to get this mapping done. And yeah, those items will reflect here, and then you can start using it for the syncing purpose. Any update, John, on this?
Yeah, so I wanted to answer Heather's question. She mentioned, is there a modular report that shows us high velocity SKUs that we should be restocking and restocking levels? Where would we find that info? Inside of Webgility directly, the reporting that you're talking about for high velocity SKUs, in the basic reporting doesn't really tell the whole story. We do have a tool called Webgility Analytics, that's like sort of it's an add-on analytics tool that you can use or access on your browser that actually will pull in SKU based sales velocity. So it'll show you your top performing SKUs, go over average order values, basically all the metrics that you're going to want to look for on a sales perspective. And you can see that across all your stores, not just the singular one that you're in as well. That it for in terms of tracking SKU velocity. For inventory stocking, Manish, I seem to remember that we did have like an inventory forecasting option inside of desktop. Is that still there?
Not anymore. I mean, that was
Okay.
very old
Yeah.
feature. So
Not something that I've seen a whole lot. For inventory
yeah,
forecasting though, I think using like a QuickBooks report is probably the best way to do that. To understand inventory levels and where the restocking is needed. We'll push the inventory that you have updated from your store, obviously, into QuickBooks. So QuickBooks is probably the best way to get that restocking like notification and understand where you're at and when you need to restock. But from a reporting perspective, in terms of like understanding your SKU's profitability and the velocity on it, the Webgility analytics tool is good. You can again use QuickBooks sales reports as well to do essentially the same thing. So if you wanted to keep it all in QuickBooks, that is always an option.
and now we can talk about like once we have products mapped or matching correctly, then we got this quality out of sync window. This is where it can compare whether quality on store is the same in QuickBook or not. And if it finds any mismatch, this is where it shows those items. So from here, we can check the box and hit sync at the bottom. It's gonna do the syncing, but what ensures that it's going to sync from QuickBook to store or vice versa. So for that, you always want to set the master catalog. If QuickBook is where you have the up-to-date information available, at the bottom, you can go to arrow sync settings. make sure QuickBook is set as your master catalog in the setting. So yeah, that's important one. Uh, yeah, and if it's vice versa for any reason, I mean, if it's not recommended again, if you, Shopify or store is where you have sales channel is where you have up to date quantity, then you wanna switch the direction here, make sales channel as a master catalog, and then when you hit sync in Webgility or when you start automation for syncing, it's gonna sync from store to QuickBook. But yeah, this is the very critical area. You're gonna be very careful on this setting. Make sure it's correct. And for the quantity sync, we talked about advanced rules as well. So if I go to automation rule, this is where we can define what count you want to sync. Maybe you have 100 quantity in QuickBook, but to prevent overselling, you just want to show 80% of what you have in QuickBook, for example. Then you can apply a rule here, check the box, and then maybe just put 80% of what you have in QuickBook. Or you got multiple other options, like whatever the count you have, you can set like two less than what you have in QuickBooks. So you always have some inventory in your kitty in your QuickBooks uh, to meet those additional orders you might be coming across, maybe through phone or email or other options. They're just holding some inventory in QuickBook to deal with other back orders you may come across in the future. The same option, if you this is the kind of common setting. If I apply this rule, it's going to apply to be it's going to be applied to all the items. But if you want to have this applied only for specific products, then you can go to item setting, and yeah, you can apply the same rule on item level as well. For example, this one, you want to set only quantity rule, is what we are focusing on. So maybe you can set three less than what you have in QuickBook. So it's gonna do the syncing for all the product, but for this product, it's always gonna make sure if you got 10 available, it's gonna update 7 count on your sales channel. So similar kind of rule you can apply for the pricing as well. If you wanna use pricing through ability and you wanna apply some rules like 10% less or 10% more, this could be interesting in those situations wherein you are running some promotion and then you want to have a price increase on your store for all the products by 10%. Then you can just go back to the store setting, set this rule on the Webgility, like maybe 110%. So you don't have to update your pricing for each item on catalog. It really saves a lot of time if that's what you want to do. And then once those special season for the high pricing is over, you can control this right from here. Change it back to 100% or less or more. It depends what you would like to set this up. So yeah, just wanted to highlight this as well, how we can control these settings for the quantity of pricing. And we talked about the costing as well. So everybody also has an option to sync your cost. It can compare the cost you have in QuickBook, cost you have on store. And if it is not the same, it's going to show that on this page cost column that shows the QuickBook cost and the Shopify cost. So if I just want to update the cost from QuickBook to store, considering QuickBook is a master catalog right now, I can check the box for cost only and sync that. Now, this is the manual process we're talking about in Webgility, but to automate the same process, you can just click on the clock on top right corner to bring the automation options. And then in the automation settings, you can just go to the setting option at the bottom. You have sync product, set the option whether you want to sync price, quantity, or cost can also show up once I enable cost from this backend setting. And you can set the rule how often it should sync those data. Maybe it's both or all. So yeah, this is how it works. Any update on John on this? Any point you want
Uh,
to share?
Yeah, so on a couple things. On Kristen's question, I think I answered almost everybody else's question. Kristen asked, can you import these automation rules or would they need to be updated in the dashboard? To my knowledge, you'd have to set them up manually. Manish, because it works off of WebGility Desktop works off of a database, is there any, can we clone a store setup from one to the other and it keeps the automation rules? Or does it only keep like the sync settings and all the like workflow settings?
Yeah, I mean, we can have same store connected twice if needed. In one store, you can only manage orders and seconds. You can just manage inventory. So you can
Or I guess
control it,
like
I mean,
let's
if
just say they
needed.
have like a two different Shopify stores, I guess is a good
Yeah.
example. And but they want them both to have the same automation rules. Can you just clone the store settings from one to the other?
Yes, it's possible. Yeah,
Okay,
when you
that's what I
connect the
thought. I
second
just wanted to
chain
make sure
channel,
before I said that.
yeah, for the first time when you connect your second channel, that's where when you're connecting that second channel with the QuickBook in WebGility, it shows you that option.
It'll
You want to
ask.
copy over all the settings.
Yeah.
When you say yes, it will save you a lot of time there. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, in the case that maybe you have multiple stores, you wanted to have those same rules to prevent overselling, stuff like that that Manish just showed, then it'll ask you when you connect the second store if you want to clone the settings. So that's perfect.
Yep.
Other
And
thing, if you could, because I think it was, I gotta scroll up a little bit. Was it Kristen as well that asked? Oh yeah, it was Kristen on this one too. She asked when you refresh the products on the top right, if you click that little refresh wheel, does it
yeah,
refresh both sides? Which it does. I mentioned that
yeah.
there's sort of the caveat that if you maybe have deleted a product from either side, hitting refresh only pulls in updates. It does not show up when products have been deleted.
Yeah.
Can you show how to do the hard refresh, the pulling products from scratch, real quick?
There are two ways to do that. I mean, we have this option here as well, download from scratch, or to make it more, I mean, clean, you can just clear WebGility's existing cache memories from the
Yeah.
backend, from the database, going to this connection sale channel advanced settings. And then once you have that window popped up, just clear the QuickBook or store catalog download date, save it. Once it's saved, hit refresh again on availabilities relevant. If you Shopify product you deleted, go back to Shopify product list and refresh it from there. And you will have those deleted items disappear from availabilities catalog. And yes, if you want to refresh the catalog from both the platform, QuickBook and Store, then whenever you are under the quantity after sync window, and if you hit refresh here, then yes, it brings the data from QuickBook and Store on both sides.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, and just to kind of explain why, there's that additional step when you're trying to get stuff from scratch. Think of it like when you have to clear your browser cache. Webgility works in a very similar way in that we want to save you time, right? Because especially if you have 20,000 products going in, and if you were to open Webgility every single time and it has to load all of your products from scratch and like go and look at QuickBooks and look at your stores and understand all that data, it's going to take infinitely more time than if we cache that data and then we only update what gets, those minor updates like inventory, price, and cost. So if you delete products, make sure that you go in and do it from scratch, clear the cache and cookie, or not the cache and cookies, that's for your browser, but just the cache from QuickBooks and Shopify. That'll make sure that you're getting the most up to date information. So if you're ever in doubt about a product's accuracy in terms of quantity, you're still seeing that it's not maybe correct. It's a good practice to go in, clear the cache, and then do it from scratch to make sure that we're getting it from its baseline.
Yep, and just one last point on the matching. We mostly talked about the catalog to catalog matching, like matching your Shopify product with the products that you have in QuickBook. Uh, Other scenarios like if you have coupon codes, gift cards, so you may have several coupon codes on store and several different type of gift cards. You don't have to maintain every single coupon code or different gift cards in QuickBook. In your QuickBook, you just have to have one gift card item to record the sale of all different gift card amounts or coupons. So in Webgility, that kind of mapping can be done in Webgility. We can go to connection, sales channel, and settings, and you just set that default item here. So in your QuickBook, you want to create other charge line item, or maybe you want to create a service item, link that gift card to the other current liability chart of account because that's not an income for you, that's not a discount. You want to always make sure it's connected to the other current liability kind of account in QuickBook. And in Webgility, you can just set that default here. If I have the gift card, I don't have one, so I'll have to create one in QuickBook, and then that's what you can use here. If it's recently created, you can also just hit refresh here at the bottom right. So the new item you created in QuickBook will be popping up here on this drop down and save it. So whenever you have gift card sale coming in, or whenever gift card you utilize as the payment or the discount, it all gets adjusted in one item in item account in QuickBook. So when you're selling gift card, your liabilities in QuickBook gets increased. Whenever it's going to be used as a discount or payment, your liability will be adjusted with the amount coming in from the store. Now, the same option if you have coupons available, so many different coupons you sell on store. Although a coupon may show in your catalog on Shopify, but you don't have to create all those items in QuickBook. In QuickBook, just create one discount item, and in Webgility setting, we have the option available to map the discount option as well. So yeah, this is how we can get the mapping done. I think it's okay. We have this window open. So under the discounts, yeah, you can just use that one this coupon code item, and it saves a lot of time. I mean, you don't have to have unnecessary records in accounting system like coupons or gift card. Just wanted to mention that as well. So yeah, this is all from my end. If there's anything else, John, you want to share, let me know.
Yeah, so we had a couple more questions. Claudia Doyle asked, does the missing in QuickBooks list only include active items in the store or all items? I think it's all items, right? Or does it include only listed active items?
Uh, yeah, mostly if you have drafts, but I've not yet created, that one shows up in Webgility catalog. But yeah,
Okay.
all other item, maybe whether you have it published on your website or not published, it will show in Webgility catalog. So if there's any item in your Shopify catalog that you don't sell anymore, or you have stopped selling it for now, but you will sell in the future, you don't have to worry about matching those items. Just focus on those items which are actively sold out on Shopify to match or
But
map
in
them.
QuickBooks, if they're listed as active products, or if they're inactive products in QuickBooks, they should still show up in the catalog, right?
QuickBook inactive doesn't show in Webgility
Okay, that's
somehow
that.
unless you
Okay,
make it active. Yeah,
perfect. Okay, so yeah, if
thanks.
it's not active in QuickBooks, it won't show up, which is probably a good thing. I would think for your situation.
Yeah.
And then Kristen has a question. Where is the online order status being picked up from? Is that from the sales channel? Yes. So Webgility has the ability to look at the default order statuses in most sales channels. So like Shopify is a good example. We'll pull in all the default order statuses that are I can't remember them off the top of my head, but it's like expired, open, fulfilled, canceled. So we'll be able to pull in whatever ones you decide. You can also pull in custom order statuses as well, but it's based directly off of what's in the sales channel. So for every sales channel, you might see different order statuses because of the way that they're set up. Most of the big ones carry the same order statuses, but if you have any custom ones, you might see a difference between your stores if you don't have those same custom ones across your stores. You use WooCommerce, so I'm looking for order status. Um, Yeah, so order status should pull in directly from it should automatically pull in. There is a section where you go to your if you go to your connected channels in Webgility, you should be able to see and reconfigure what order status is. I don't know if you want to maybe show that, Manish, just to kind of give it some more
Yes,
context.
I'm getting there. Meanwhile, I'm sharing some records in the chat here. I have those relevant help articles handy for the topics we discussed today. So anybody wanna note it down, please make just click on it and do your browser, or just simply make a note of it, copy it, and keep it handy. So I'm sharing my screen now again. Is it visible?
Yes.
Yeah, in Webgility, you can go to connection on top, sales channel, and settings. This is where you have option like what you want to bring into Webgility from store. So when your sales channel has so many status like WooCommerce and BigCommerce, yes, they do have a lot of different status. So maybe disputed, canceled, manual verification required, or something. All those options will pop up here on this window. So you can uncheck or check the box for those orders you want to download. I mean, just check the box if you want to download, and just keep those things unchecked. We don't want to bring into Webgility or QuickBook. So
Yeah.
that's where it can be avoided. Let me
Yeah.
check if
So
I have.
for WooCommerce and oh, if you do have a WooCommerce, perfect. It should show what pulls in by default.
Yeah, it will just take a moment to load, and we can check it. Yeah, pending payment. So mostly like on hold, you don't want to bring into QuickBook. Pending payment, it depends. I mean, if you are running retail business and you don't want to bring any order in QuickBook unless payment is not done, you can uncheck that as well. This one is like not kind of. This one could be critical when you have B2B business. You may want
Mhm.
to download it because if it's a term order. So, but yeah, you can uncheck this one. Processing is what paid but waiting for shipment completed. Yeah, anything you like fail, you can uncheck, cancel, you can keep it unchecked. So yeah, and save it. So Webgility will not bring those orders which are unchecked this way.
Yeah. And yeah, Webgility might not recognize fulfilled as like a default order status. It really depends on the sales channel. So I would check here and see what pulls in by default. And then if you want to mess with like the process payment, process shipping, like is it marked as is the payment processed? Is the order fulfilled? You can kind of customize that in Webgility to make sure that we understand what you're looking at for order statuses.
Yeah.
The get refunds and record drop down in options, sales channel settings, where do they come from and can they be customized?
Oh, this particular one option is especially for those odd situation wherein you process a refund on Shopify or your store, but you forgot to mention what it belonged to. So, for example, like when you process a refund, you mention the refund belonged to the product ABC or shipping or tax or discount or tax or maybe any other amount. But when you do not mention which one that particular what what kind of refund it is, you just process money, you just process refund, but there's no clue what refund, what amount it belonged, what it exactly belonged to. So in that situation, QuickBook even would not accept your entries. So in those situations, we can just set one default refund adjustment item. Maybe I have something like price adjustments or refund adjustment. It could be other charge in your QuickBook, and that should be connected to your relevant sales income account. So you choose that item here, and whenever we come across that odd refund, when there's a no clue what it belong, which item refund belong to, that's when refund will go to this default item.
Yeah.
However,
So it's
whenever
sort
you
of like
process
a fallback system, right? It's like a sort of an edge case.
Yes, another situation could be like you're giving the money back to the customer just as a compensation, not as a refund for any specific product. It can be utilized in that situation too.
Got it. And you can always for when you want to actually customize how you process refunds and how they get posted into QuickBooks, that's under the actual posting settings.
Yes,
Um,
connection accounting, sync settings, and then
mhm.
you can define whether it should be create memo entry or you want to just add a refund receipt in QuickBook for those orders. And it
Mhm.
depends. You have a full refund on Shopify or store of partial refund, refund only for shipping. So whatever kind of data we have from store, the refund gets created in QuickBook accordingly.
Yeah,
But yeah, enter type is what you can prefer. If you just need, if you create memo, you can check the box here. And if you just want refund check in QuickBook, that's how you can set this up. And you can define the bank as well, where you want to reduce money from in QuickBook for the refund.
perfect,
Yeah.
perfect. And we did a session on posting refunds inside of QuickBooks. I think it was late November, early December. I can't remember exactly. But if you'd like a link to that, I can certainly send that your way, or you can just go onto the YouTube channel. It should be listed there as well. I'm gonna drop a link to the YouTube channel just so everybody can see that. But if there are no other questions, I think that's all we have for today. Happy to answer any additional questions while I get this pulled up. Um, if I can find it. I have to like go to our channel. Um, there we go. Okay, so I'm gonna drop a link to the YouTube channel. Feel free to head there anytime you want. There are a number of different types of videos there, testimonials, product walkthroughs, these webinars that we've recorded, as well as past webinars that I've recorded with our partners. So a lot of information, a lot of learning there. You'll find the webinars under the playlist if you want to go back and watch the customer webinars. They're called the customer webinar series plus Q&A, which you'll find this video that we just recorded in hopefully later today. But thank you guys so much for joining. We always appreciate you being here. Feel free to reach out to our team if you still need any help or run into any issues. That is what we are here for. But I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your Wednesday and rest of your week. Thanks, Manish,
Thank you,
and thanks
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you, John.